Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best 5 brawlers for every single free versus free game mode within Brawl Stars right now. So this is really going to help you further your understanding on what's meta inside of ranked, inside of ladder, trying to help you push those trophies, and just overall it's going to help you get more consistent wins. So before we jump into the video, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. Over 65% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, and I also just want to give you guys the best tips to help you improve in Brawl Stars. Let me know down in the comment section below as well what videos you want to see in the future. And without further ado, let's jump into it. So I'm going to be starting off with Brawl. So there's a lot of variants with Brawl. There's so many good brawlers on so many different maps, but here are the best 5. Starting off with Sandy. So of course Sandy's just skyrocketed up the meta. The main reason why Sandy's so good in Brawl is a lot easier to get a Sandy super. There's a lot of chaos, so Sandy can easily feed super from so many different avenues. His best maps are going to be really grassy ones, sneaky fields, center stage are the ones that spring to mind. So the next brawler on the list is Max. She always enables so many really disgusting compositions. She can just synergize so well, and especially with the hypercharge now, pretty much a hypercharge max super will equal a goal. She's usable in literally every single scenario, even the grassy maps you can pop on the vision gear. She's just good in every single Brawl map. Next up, we've got Jackie. So this is more so if you're playing with randoms, but Jackie is just such a menace still on Brawl ladder right now. There's just so many broken Jackie maps, like Retina for example, like Beach Ball, any grassy map as well. It doesn't even matter what composition you're facing off against. Jackie could just keep going in over and over again, cycle to that hypercharge, and you can always create space and create a goal, get a team wipe, and whatever else. Next up, we have Surge. So Surge hyper counters a lot of the tanks in the meta right now, but the good thing about Surge is that he can easily get levels up in Brawl. And of course, once Surge starts to stack his levels, he can really start hard carrying, especially with his shield gadget. You're thinking again more of the grassy maps, so that's where you mostly see those tanks, and you can sneak up with the speed gear and get your level really easily. And then the last one's going to be Cordelia. So the main reason being, again, there's a lot of tanks here, but also the main reason being because you can always manipulate where you are on the map. So again, you can just super smart across the map. You can get in behind enemy lines a lot easier. Grassy maps as well, you can scout people by your supercharging circle. It's just a lot of good ways to use Cordelius in Brawl. So now we're moving on to gem grabs. So I'm going to go through a couple of mid brawlers. So these are going to be the brawlers that can carry gems the best, and then a couple of lane brawlers as well. So the first brawler on the list is going to be Jean. So I'd pretty much recommend Jean in every single game mode except for Heist right now, but I'd say Jean is definitely the best inside of gem grab, the best gem carrier for sure. Main reason being, he's just a really safe pick. He has a lot of HP for a mid brawler, and then he can easily scout the grass with the vision gear. He can get a really good pull with his mythic gear, but of course he's got a hypercharge. There's just so many good things about him. He can pop the knockback gadget as well to be safe against aggro brawlers. There's just not a better gem carrier than Jean, except for maybe Angelo, who's also on this list. So again, Angelo's just insane. He's really good against aggro picks because most of the time once you cycle to your super, you can pretty much one-shot them, and then if they decide to go aggro, you can just jump away really easily. He counters a lot of the mid brawlers mainly because of his very fast movement speed, and of course Angelo is one of the best brawlers in the game, so of course he's going to be insane in gem grab. Next up, we have a lane brawler in Amber. So Amber's always incredibly underrated, and she's insane in gem grab. One of the best lanes for sure. Pretty much every scenario you can play Amber because you're playing on a map with a lot of walls. You can just switch to the spinny gadget, Dancing Flames, which is going to enable you to deal a lot of damage around walls and counter those tanks. And then you can go 5 starters on the more open maps like Open Space, Last Stop, etc. But Amber's just such a versatile pick in gem grab, one of the best lanes for sure. Next up, we have Charlie. So Charlie is still an S-tier brawler in the meta right now. I think her best game mode is going to be gem grab. Main reason being is because if you hit a clutch super across the map, you can hit the gem carry on the enemy team, and the gems just literally fall out of their hands, and you can just pick up a few gems, maybe to reset the countdown as well. It's really good for that. And of course Charlie just hyper counters so many tanks. Such a great lane brawler on gem grab. And lastly, we have Nita. So Nita's insane in the Brawl meta as well, but I think in gem grab she has a few better maps. I'd say you got to make sure you're not using her on the longer range maps, but there's a few maps in particular where she's so strong. Undermine, Gem 4, Death Cap Trap, Hard Rock Mine, all of these maps with a lot of walls, you can get a lot of value out of Nita. She cycles through to a hyper bear so easily, literally 2 supers, I mean, you can just get so much pressure. Although Bruce doesn't really hit the opponents, it's just the amount of HP that he has paired with the shield gadget. It just equals map control. So now we're going to be moving on to the best 5 brawlers in the Heist meta right now. So this is still pretty much a clown game mode, mainly because it's just base race and it's whoever can just deal damage the fastest wins. So the best brawler on Heist is going to be Chuck. Main reason being he's the best brawler on 3 out of the 4 maps in the rotation except for GG Mortuary. But the main reason being is because you can just set one post just before the Heist safe and then making sure you get that second post onto the Heist safe, and then you can just keep going in over and over again. Do I need to explain? Chuck is just an S-tier brawler on Heist. You can just keep flying in across the map and it's near enough impossible to counter unless you got a Charlie or Cordelius. Next up we have Colt. So Colt always slips through the bans in Heist because people would rather go for like Angelo, Chuck, Melody, but Colt is an absolute S-tier brawler in Heist. All it takes is for one push with a speed loader gadget, hypercharge, etc., and you can literally just rip through the safe. He's just really strong in every single scenario. Whether it's GG Mortuary, he can use the break gadget as well. There's just so many applications for Colt. Next up we have Colette. Do I need to explain her? Hypercharge super deals 25% to the high safe. Just her normal supers as well, 12%. It adds up over time, and she also counters a few of the Heist meta brawlers. And then next up we got Belle. So although she doesn't do a lot of damage to the safe, I just think Belle's such a strong, consistent pick. And if you can start tapping with Belle, you can just create so much pressure in Heist. You can also just shoot the Heist safe and then it ricochets off the opponents as well. She's going to be really good in Kaboom Canyon, safe zone in particular. And then lastly we have Melody. So Melody's one of the best brawlers easily. I'll say only really Chuck is better than her in the Heist meta. Main reason being you just need 4 shots to get your first super. Then just fly up onto the Heist safe and then you can just pop your shield gadget once you've got 3 notes, and then you just spin anti-clockwise, dealing so much damage to the Heist safe, and by the time they've killed you, you probably dealt 50% to the Heist safe. I mean, Heist is completely broken right now. So now moving on to Hot Zone. Only 4 maps in a rotation right now, and one of the best brawlers for sure, super underrated in Hot Zone, it is Pam. So you want to use Pam pretty much everywhere except for parallel plays. Main reason being you've got the mythic gear, you've got the health gear as well, and you just do not die with Pam. There's so many unbreakable walls in really good positions, especially on dueling beetles, where if you're a good Pam, the only thing that can really stop you is insane hard counters like Lou or Jesse, for example. You're just not going to die, and that's just going to equal map control, and it's going to equal a lot of zone percentage. Once you keep that Pam turret up, it's essential to keep it in a safe spot. Next up we have Jesse. Again, Jesse's just insane in Hot Zone, always has been, even before the hypercharge, and then the hypercharge has just made her even more broken. You just pop the hypercharge, you get it within 2 supers, well before 2 supers, and then you just pop that 10k turret behind an unbreakable wall, not even unbreakable wall, just behind any wall, and it's going to be a force for the opponents to deal with. Next up we've got Byron. So I'd say the main reason, because he's actually a really good pocket healer on Hot Zone. You think of parallel plays, he's a really good mid because he can pinch, he can help the right lane get onto the right top zone. He's also really good in dueling beetles because he can easily just sit in a lane or down the mid and just allow your teammate to sit on the zone. There's a Ring of Fire. There's just every single map just complements Byron so well, where you can really help your team get a lot more percentage on the zone. Next up we got Poco. So again, it's a little bit more of an aggressive idea rather than Byron, the healer side, but you can see 3 out of the 5 brawlers I recommend in Hot Zone have some type of healing mechanic because it's so important to stay alive on the Hot Zone. But Poco's really good on dueling beetles, really good on Ring of Fire and open business as well. The recent buff to his tuning fork gadget has just enabled him to just heal so much, and it's so hard for the opponents to deal with unless they've got like Jesse or like a Lou or something to really hyper counter it. And then lastly we have Stu. So again, he's got a healing mechanic. Actually, that's 4 out of 5 the brawlers that have some type of healing. His gas to heal just makes it a really hard kill. That means he can stay on the zone for longer. He can also just easily gain his first super, and he really struggles on a lot of different game modes to chain through his supers. But in Hot Zone, it's easy. The opponents are always going to be near their zone where you're easily going to be able to get your super. You've also got the speed zone gadget that can just enable your mid to dodge a lot more shots and get onto the zone easier. So Stu's always been a good Hot Zone brawler. So now we're going to be moving it into Bounty / Wipeout. So pretty much the same game mode, except for in Wipeout the maps are a little bit more longer range, but of course inside of this type of meta it's always going to be snipers. So of course the best brawler in Bounty, or one of the best for sure, it has to be Nanny. Do I need to explain, even since the damage nerf, Nani's still going to be insane in this game mode. You've got Return to Sender, which is literally like an extra life, especially against a sniper. You literally can't die 3 times when you pop this gadget, which is just absolutely insane. You've got the Nani Peep as well that sometimes can one-shot Brawlers. It's really hard to one-shot Brawlers now with it, but it's just good for pressure overall. And of course, Nani just counters all the other longer range Brawlers because she outranges them and deals so much damage. Next up, we have Piper. Do we even need to explain? Piper is just the queen when it comes to bounty and longer range maps. Just really good at confirming kills with Homemade Recipe. The amount of damage that she deals is just absolutely insane. Then you've got a super to break open some of the maps. Literally in Wipeout, all of the maps outside of Infinite Doom are just super long range, so Piper's always going to work in that scenario. Next up, we got Tick. So Tick, I think, is still a little bit underrated by the majority. The main reason being is because he's just still a really annoying brawler. If you actually put on automatic, which is super underrated, you can just force the opponents in an uncomfortable position. His hypercharge is hard to actually charge up, but at the end of the game, and that's when you really want to excel, especially in bounty, the last 15 seconds is the most important. You'll have your hypercharge ready, and it can always create pressure and sometimes get the game winning kill. And you've also just got a lot of good maps for Tick, which you have a lot of walls in, like Canal Grande, Shooting Star, Hideout. Literally a perfect Tick map. Next up, we got Meg. So the main reason being Meg is just so good in bounty, and she's also good in knockout, is because she counters the other snipers in this meta. It's also just about staying alive, and Meg literally is the perfect counter to those snipers because it takes multiple shots for them to kill her. And you also just got a healing gadget which can just pressure the opponents all the way back into spawn, and a good Meg will easily beat a good Piper or Nani. If they're both similar skill, Meg will win every single time, so make sure to use Meg. Still really good in this meta. And then finally, we've got a little bit of an underrated one, so I went with Mr. P. So you're not going to be really carrying with Mr. P, but the main reason why I put him in the bounty list is because he is a safe pick. People underrate him, but once you cycle through to your first super, his porters are actually really annoying, and it's going to consistently just chase sharpshooters. And of course, Mr. P is a great counter to sharpshooters, so I think he's a really underrated pick within the bounty meta. So now moving into the final 3 versus 3 mode, we have Knockout. So we have a lot of maps within this rotation. It's always in the ladder rotation. So one of the best brawlers for me has to be Sprout. So Sprout is super cheesy. Sprout's always been a good brawler, but the problem is with Sprout, in the other game modes, there's always just some annoying assassin. But in Knockout, it's very rare that assassins are played, like Mortis. It's really hard to play Mortis. So there's a lot of cheesy potential with Sprout. You think of New Horizons, for example. You could just sit behind a wall literally the entire game. Same with Flare and Phoenix. Same with Bell's Rock. Same with Gold Arm Gulch. There's so many good Sprout maps. And especially with his wall, it can just force the opponents into uncomfortable positions, especially with the gas closing in. He's just an insane brawler since the Hypercharge addition. Even though the Hypercharge itself isn't good, just the stat boost just enable him to win so many matchups. Next up, we have Gene. So again, I'd recommend Gene in every single game mode, but in Knockout, it's always been his bread and butter. Main reason being is because you can easily group up with your teammates with magic puffs, and then your super can sometimes confirm kills, of course, if you hit those pulls. But if you just save your pull until the gas closes in, it's a lot easier to hit the pulls, confirm kills, especially with your teammates. And just overall, it's a safe pick. There's hardly any counters to him right now in the Knockout meta. Next up, we have Brock. So again, Brock's always just a safe pair of hands. You're not really going to hard carry Brock, but there's a lot of maps in the game where Brock is needed to break open the map and stop the cheesy counters. For example, New Horizons, if people are just camping behind walls or throwers, you can just destroy the walls. Same with Out in the Open, and there's just a couple of other maps as well where you do need a wall break, and Brock is just really good for that reason. Next up, we have Buster. So you kind of got a cheesy strategy with Buster and Kit, and you've also got Buster and Gene. So he's just going to be insane in a lot of different scenarios. I'll say it takes a little bit more skill to play Buster, main reason being because you need a lot of teamwork and coordination, because you need to group up, get his first super, and then push back. But if you're a really good Buster player, you can wait until the gas closes in, and then you can use your super to just literally deflect all of the shots, because of course the opponent, like, there's going to be hardly any space between the battle, and the Buster super can just cover the entire space that's left within the final bit of the circle, if that makes sense. I mean, Buster's just insane once the gas closes in. And lastly, we have Kit. So Kit is just crazy broken with his strategies going on in Knockout. If you watch some pro monthly finals, especially within NA, there was like a Miko Kit combination. There's just so many combinations that are super cheesy right now on ladder. There's like Frank and Kit, there's Hank and Kit, there's Mortis and Kit, there's just Daryl and Kit. There's so many cheesy compositions going on. Main reason being because Kit actually counters a lot of the meta brawlers, because you can like 3-4 tap, or you can even just super and get a couple of taps and kill so many of the snipers. And just also, it's just a healing. You've got the cheeseburger gadget, you just got the passive healing as well. The amount of pressure that you can get, you can't really stop it, because a lot of the knockout brawlers are typically snipers, like I said, and they don't counter kit. You need like a really big hard counter like Charlie or Cordelius to really deal with the cheesy kit strategy that's going on right now. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Let me know whether you want to see maybe a different video on 5v5, because it's pretty fun right now and a lot of people might want to know that, or even Showdown, for example. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.